to this entrepreneurs, investors, policymakers, industry experts, who I believe are eager to explore the dynamic intersections between the two regions, Greece and East Africa. The Hellenic African Chamber, as most of you know, was founded 26 years ago and has since been working to boost the interest of the Greek business community in the African continent and the opportunities that this continent presents to Greek companies and professionals. Every year, we organize numerous webinars and teleconferences showcasing opportunities for exports and investments across various African countries, regions, and sectors. We also host workshops, conferences, cultural events, as well as trade missions and visits to these countries. Among our 260 members coming from all sectors and regions in Greece, there are businesses and entrepreneurs with significant experience in doing business in Africa, as well as honorary consuls of African countries who share their expertise with our members. Our membership and close relationships with the European Business Council for Africa and the Mediterranean, which is based in Brussels, and which comprises of 14 European chambers focusing exclusively on Africa, as well as our liaison contacts in African countries, enable us to support our members with information and advice. Eastern Africa is rapidly emerging as one of the world's most promising markets, with a young, expanding population, increasing urbanization, and a rapidly growing middle class. The region offers tremendous potential for growth across various sectors. At the same time, Greece, with its rich history and strategic geographic location at the crossroads of Europe, Asia, and Africa, has transformed itself into a hub for innovation and investments. Recent reforms and infrastructure upgrades have boosted confidence in the Greek market, positioning it as a gateway into Europe. The convergence of Eastern Africa's dynamism and Greece's strategic connectivity creates a unique opportunity for mutually beneficial partnerships. By combining Eastern Africa's demographic advantage and resource potential with Greek expertise in technology, shipping, tourism, and management, both regions can drive sustainable economic growth. Eastern Africa's demographic profile is one of its greatest assets. With a median age much lower than that of most developed economies, the region is poised to be a powerhouse of innovation and productivity. This young workforce is not only creating a vibrant domestic market, but it is also fostering entrepreneurship and technological innovation in sectors like fintech, digital services, and renewable energy. Meanwhile, Greece's economy is evolving. Structural reforms and improved fiscal management has revitalized the market, making it more attractive for investment. Greece's location and historical ties serve as a bridge between Europe and Africa, offering Greek businesses a gateway to expand their operations while also importing new ideas and technologies from Eastern Africa. One of the key factors in successfully harnessing these opportunities is understanding the regulatory frameworks in both regions. Eastern African nations are actively reforming their business environments to attract foreign direct investment, improve infrastructure, and foster innovation. Similarly, Greece is modernizing its policies to create a more investor-friendly climate and to streamline bureaucratic processes. During today's webinar, we will discuss trade agreements, investment incentives, and regulatory reforms that are reshaping the business landscape. We'll provide practical strategies for overcoming regulatory challenges and ensuring that partnerships are built on transparency and mutual benefit. Some key sectors for collaboration are renewable energy, shipping and logistics, tourism, agriculture and food processing, technology and innovation, and many others. But despite the abundant opportunities, challenges remain, and key obstacles include regulatory barriers, infrastructure gaps, cultural and language differences, and very important, risk management. Political, economic, and market risks need to be carefully assessed. These issues will be discussed by our panelists, offering practical guidance for mitigating these risks. So as we look to the future, the collaboration between Eastern Africa and Greece has the potential to reshape our global trade and investment. By leveraging our complementary strengths, we can create partnerships that drive sustainable development, boost economic growth, and enhance the competitiveness of our companies. So let's seize this opportunity to unlock the potential that lies at the intersection of Eastern African dynamism and Greek innovation. I would like to thank you, and I wish you an engaging and productive session. Mr. Kourkoutas, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Mr. President, for the intro and the data you shared with us. Very well said. Now we have together with us Mr. Karaballis, the representative from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs in Greece, Director General for International and Economic Relations. Mr. Karaballis.
Thank you very much, and let me start by thanking you, the Hellenic African Chamber of Commerce and Development, for the invitation to this event, which is focusing on the prospects and opportunities of Greek entrepreneurs for trade and investment in East Africa. We are very well aware that the East African region provides a promising and dynamic business environment full of untapped potential and exciting prospects for growth. And by building partnerships and venturing into this vibrant market, the Greek businesses can pave the way for mutually beneficial success. East Africa remains one of Africa's fastest growing regions, with GDP projected to expand by 5 to 6% in 2025. This robust growth is underpinned by large-scale infrastructure investments, expanding manufacturing sectors, and recovering global demand for export-driven industries. I have to underline that the Greek presence in East African countries is not something new or recent, but dates from old times, with a very strong presence in trade and cultivation sectors. Greece has never been a colonial power. On the contrary, it has always approached relations with the countries in the region, which are currently also members of the East African Community, always in a spirit of cooperation and mutual benefit. East African countries today possess vast agricultural potential characterized by the fertile land and a large rural population actively engaged in farming. Agriculture plays a pivotal role, employing majority of the population and contributing significantly to the GDP. In this regard, several Greek companies are already successfully operating in Kenya, particularly in the production and marketing of coffee and tea. In addition, given that several countries of the region are net importers of food products, we should encourage Greek enterprises to export their agricultural products. The majority of East African countries are investing heavily in infrastructure, including roads, railways, and airports. Greek businesses, particularly in the construction and engineering sectors, could contribute to large-scale infrastructure projects by leveraging Greece's expertise, especially in this region, where investing in infrastructure is crucial for enhancing the country's export competitiveness. Moreover, the demand for energy across this region is steadily increasing, particularly in renewable sources, such as solar, wind, and hydropower. In this regard, it would be beneficial for Greek energy enterprises to collaborate with local governments or businesses in the production and distribution of solar energy, wind power, and other renewable energy technologies, and explore partnerships in green energy projects. Greece, as a member of the European Union, benefits from trade agreements, economic partnerships between the EU and most East African countries. Greek entrepreneurs can take advantage of these agreements to benefit from the lower trade tariffs and the expanded market opportunities. Furthermore, as in the medium term, investments in infrastructure and productive sectors in the countries of the region are necessary in order to develop their competitiveness, and we encourage Greek entrepreneurs to develop partnerships and invest in East Africa, taking advantage in particular of the European Strategic Initiative, the Global Gateway. Because this initiative focuses on sustainable infrastructure, health, education, and climate change to drive Africa's socioeconomic, green, and digital transformation. A central aspect of this initiative is its dedication to attracting private sector investments and its commitment to realizing the multiplier effect of resource rents. And it should be noted, but among the first 20 projects agreed and funded by the European Union, pertaining to the flagship projects, is the project by one of the largest Greek companies in Western Africa in the mining and infrastructure sector. Strengthening trade links between Greece and East Africa could facilitate a mutual movement of goods and services, where there is ample space for our trade volume to be enhanced. And this can be achieved through strategic partnerships with local businesses, trade missions, and participation in regional trade fairs. In conclusion, I would like to emphasize that our ministry is fully committed to supporting Greek entrepreneurs wishing to operate in East African countries. This support is provided through our embassies in the region, which cover multiple countries with parallel accreditation, ensuring comprehensive assistance. I wish to thank once more the Hellenic African Chamber of Commerce and Development for providing this opportunity to exchange views and bring the business communities of Greece and East Africa closer. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Karabalis. And after the officials, we can proceed with the presentations, starting with Mr. Emmanuel Ngeno from Kenya. As I mentioned in the beginning, feel free to write your questions in the chat box throughout the presentations, and we'll make sure that everything is going to be answered during the Q&A sessions. So Mr. Emmanuel Ngeno is going to talk about recycling business in Kenya and how to start up a business in Kenya. Mr. Ngeno, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. John, and the Hellenic Africa Chamber of Commerce and Development. I wish to begin my presentation from the point of recycling business in the country. And I'd break it down into two sectors, or rather three sectors. And of course, the third sector being the upcoming entrant into the market. So we currently have a key player, I'd call it in the recycling sector of the plastic recycling sector, which is more so established, or rather has materialized over the last 10 years with two key businesses being set up in the country, and with key investments from the US, investments from Sweden, investments from the United Arab Emirates as well. And that has clearly, I'd call it, stipulated the recycling business in the country. We've had the players taking charge in the different plastic recycling plants. And so with investments close to, I'd call it 2 billion Kenya shillings in the sector to have the different machineries running the recycling business. So we are literally looking at recycling business to a capacity of getting the plastics to a pellet level. The most recent, I'd call it key change in the market was having agreements with international players where food grade recycling is now currently happening within the country. So you'd find that plastics are recycled to the capacity of pellets, be it the rPET recycling that is key in the market. We also have rHDP recycling that is also happening in the market. We also have rPP recycling happening in the market. So if you look at the East African market at large, you would say Kenya is currently the key player because they are running the recycling to the point of pellet level. What happens in Tanzania, what happens in Uganda, the recycling that happens in those regions basically targets the recycling to unwashed level, flex level. So these unwashed flex level are then exported to India, Pakistan, China for purposes of further recycling. However, in Kenya, you'd get the recycling goes to the full, I'd call it to the end of the value chain, where the rPET are being exported to Europe, exported to Dubai, exported to Asia for purposes of consumption into the value chain by the key consumers. Speaking of a few of them, we have Coca-Cola, we have Unilever. These have become the key investors by being the off-takers of the rPET and rHDP. In terms of the other type of recycling, I'd go to the e-waste recycling, which is currently not fully expounded in the market, or rather exploited in the market, because you'd find that e-waste recycling currently is being run by one major player, and this is a Chinese company that then exports, rather doesn't do the full recycling of the product, but then exports the same products to China for final recycling. So the e-recycling, e-waste recycling is not yet fully tapped into, and that becomes a key market that any entrant can have an interest in. The other type of recycling that is currently ongoing in the country is the clothing recycling, where we having investors from the US running research across the country to try and have pilot projects on how they can have the cloth recycling. So this is a project that has been fully funded by Bestseller Foundation in one of the companies within the country, and so the recycling has begun. So this is yet in the, I'd call it the pilot phase. So we can't say that sector is yet fully tapped into, because remember, a pilot stage can automatically become fail to become a complete project. So that goes into the recycling business in Kenya. So I'd say in totality, Kenya is way ahead in terms of recycling compared to the rest of the East African countries. And you'd find one of the key players in the market is currently expanding to Tanzania, expanding to Uganda, to get to source more products from the region and basically tap into the export market. Recycling business in terms of policies, I'd say we have clear policies as a country where the government has set up, or rather has improved on policies and is now working on a new policy, or rather to look at employing the European type of recycling model where material waste at the point of homes can easily be segregated. And in that case, materials are then taken to the different factories with clear segregation. The current challenge that is happening within the country is all wastes are put together, and in that case, it then becomes a complete expensive process to separate the waste. So the government is currently setting up plans with the different county governments to ensure that waste is then segregated from the point of the consumer level. That, I believe, would then limit the cost of rather having all these materials go up the value chain. In terms of taxes, the government has subsidies when it comes to recycling business. And in that case, any importation of machinery relating to any kind of recycling in the country, therefore does not attract value add tax. So in that case, the material gets into the country exclusive of VAT. You would summarize it in that capacity. So I'd say the Kenyan government is well prepared and well structured to see that the recycling business becomes a big hit. And you would note that companies like Coca-Cola, companies like Unilever, companies like Microsoft are looking at getting local partners that they can work together to ensure that whatever waste goes out from their different materials is then recycled, and in that case push for sustainability in the environment. My next presentation would now move into doing business in Kenya. And I would want to break this into 3 different sectors, or rather 4 different sectors. One, I'd highlight in terms of policies. The second item I'll want to highlight on is Kenya in comparison to the other East African countries. You'd also need to see what are the benefits of one setting up in Kenya. And the last item would be, what are the key examples of businesses that have set up in Kenya or multinational businesses that are currently having headquartered located in Kenya. So to begin with, if you compare the policies between the sub-Saharan African region and the Kenyan market at large, you tend to know that Kenya appears to be the fourth country in Africa with the best ease of doing business. Rwanda being number 3, we have Tunisia and Morocco being among the first 2. So if you compare the policies of setting up businesses in Kenya, Kenya becomes 4th in Africa, and I'd say the 2nd in sub-Saharan Africa region, and the 56th globally. This has been an improvement since the year 2008, where the government has really streamlined its policies to ensure that even businesses can be set within a period of 72 hours. And the bureaucratic approaches that were existing before of delaying the business setup to a period of a month, 2 months, 3 months has now been reduced to a 72-hour period. We are also looking at the requirements of international or rather foreigners setting up business in Kenya. Earlier, it required shareholding to be held by a local individual, but currently a foreigner can fully own the different shares, or rather own the full shareholding. But in this case, a Kenyan would just come in as a secretary. So in that case, the full ownership of the business then sits with the international investor. You would also note that the government has currently set up a lot of policies. Just to mention but a few, we have special economic zones that are being set up by the government to push for, I'd call tax havens for any multinationals, or rather for any foreigners who intend to invest in the country. We are having 3 current SEZs set up by the country. And in that case, we are seeing a couple of multinationals setting up their headquarters in Kenya. Examples are Google, examples are IBM, examples are Microsoft. And just to mention on a general view, you would note that the United Nations has then diverted all its operations to Nairobi as the headquarters. Another key entrance that is currently moving into the country because of the SEZ development is JP Morgan. This is a bank from the US. The bank is currently in negotiations to set up a base in Kenya. And that would automatically mean we'd have 2 key players from the US, that being Citibank US and JP Morgan US. All the other
Mr. Ngeno, you have
Yes.
another 2 to 3 minutes, if you may.
Okay, I think I'll shorten it.
Thank you.
Yes, so looking at the other items from Kenya, you'd look at improvement in infrastructure. You're talking of, I'd call it the seaport that becomes a natural sea hub compared to the other regions. We are looking at infrastructure in terms of roads. We are looking at electricity, which then becomes a challenge for South Africa, becomes a challenge for Nigeria. You're looking at Kenya literally becoming the Silicon Valley of Africa, or of sub-Saharan Africa. With the current population of 2.5 billion in the sub-Saharan Africa region, you're literally looking at Kenya becoming the entrant, right? You've mentioned Rwanda as being a competitor in terms of setting up business, but Rwanda is a landlocked country. So in that case, Kenya becomes a competitor in terms of, entry of goods into the market. In general, or rather to summarize everything, Kenya's GDP in the last 5 years has maintained a constant 5%, becoming the best in Africa. So in that case, it literally tells any investor that this is the market to get to. This is the market to try and set up your business. And this is the market that can easily open up your business to the different regions. Talk of Jumia setting up in Kenya and opening up to the region. You talk of different IT investments that have been set up in the country, and Meta being the hub of different IT sectors in the country. And in that case, I'd say Kenya becomes the home to any investor that would like to get into the East African and the Sub-Saharan region. Thank you, John.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ngeno, for the insights that you've shared for Kenya. Indeed, Kenya is the hub of East Africa, and in many cases, the gateway. I'm very happy that apart from Kenya, we have representatives from other countries. So we're going to have a better understanding of the whole region that we are discussing today. So going to the next presenter, Mrs. Angela Kinuya, who is the only lady from the group of presenters. Welcome, Angela. Angela is very experienced and knowledgeable in many sectors, not only in Kenya, but the whole East Africa and even further. And I have the pleasure of working with her in several cases. So I'm pretty sure we're going to listen to very interesting insights. Angela, thank you for sharing, and you can start.
Thank you so much, John, for the warm welcome, and thank you so much for the invite to this meeting. I hope you can all see my screen, so I will quickly go through it all. So as you've been told by John, my name is Angela Kinuya, and my career has been in fostering B2B relationships in the medical, printing, packaging, plastics, processing, security, food, and hospitality sectors in East Africa. And honestly, the goal for today's presentation is to provide actionable insights on trade and investment in East Africa as a whole. When it comes to, so I'll first start with this an executive summary, which I'll keep quite short. We have in East Africa, there's a favorable business climate. When you look at all the countries in East Africa, the governments have been actively fostering a pro-business environment with investor-friendly policies, tax incentives, and trade facilitation efforts.
Angela, allow me to interrupt you. I don't know which slide are you showing us, but
you can see two.
We are still in the first one. Yes, if you can maximize it or reshare.
Okay, let me try resharing it.
Yes.
Are you okay now?
It's loading. Please put it in full screen. Yes, now we can see the third slide.
Perfect.
Go ahead.
Thank you for that.
Yes.
Okay. So, so one of the things we're saying about East Africa is that there's a favorable business climate. This is because of what the government has been doing in the region, the different governments that is, and the different trade agreements that are in place. There's a booming economy, which I won't talk about right now, because again, the speakers before me have talked about it. And then there's a strategic location, because Kenya, East Africa as a whole, is a critical hub for trade between Africa, Europe, and Asia, just because of where it is located. And the map on the side can be able to show you what I mean by this. You can see just how easy it is to have trade within the regions. When it comes to why the economic snapshot, when you look at it, urbanization, which has been mentioned, the rate is really high that's about 10% for East Africa. The GDP we've already spoken about. And just to compare the GDP growth trends, look at East Africa, we're looking at about 5.1%. Central Africa is about 3.6%. West Africa, 3.9%. South Africa, 2.7%. And North Africa, 4.2%. So if you do a comparison, you'll find that East Africa has the highest GDP growth rates across the African regions. And of course, you've already spoken about the middle class population growth. When you look at the trade agreements that are in place, there are so many that are very of interest to any investor. One is like the East African Community, which it represents intergovernmental organizations of 7 member states, and this is for economic integration and free trade and policy and harmonization. So this makes work very easy. You'll find that many because we do a lot of trade shows in the country and in the region, you find that companies set up, let's say, in a country like Kenya, and now the trade agreements that are in the region allow them to be able to move their goods within the region more easier. So that becomes like a plus for them. We have COMESA. COMESA now broadens it to 21 African countries. We have the African AfTA, the African Continental Free Trade Area. So this, of course, is the largest free trade area in the world by market size. And you'll find that there are companies like Toyota who are benefiting from the duty-free access. We also have the Markup 2 program, which is a new initiative by the EU that's in East Africa. This is helping key industries such as coffee, tea, leather, and packaging. And the program is going to be able to improve the sectors and also increase export promotion. There's also the Kenya-EU Economic Partnership. So this is specifically to Kenya. And this, especially for investors from Europe, it means that it's encouraging more European investment in Kenya industries, which includes agriculture, processing, and packaging. And then there are recent policy changes that impact trade and investment. And these are things like the Kenya Finance Act in 2023, which introduced tax incentives for manufacturing, IC industries, which of course has boosted industrial growth in those sectors. Tanzania is also offering 10-year tax breaks for strategic projects, attracting FDI. And then Rwanda is also trying to decrease any bureaucratic delays in terms of business registration. And this, of course, is also increasing the amount of businesses that want to set up in Rwanda. When you look at the key sectors driving growth, we have manufacturing and industrial processing. So when you look at this, we've already spoken about the increase in population. So of course, there's increased in demand for automation, for machinery, and for production efficiency. So there are companies such as Bidco Africa, which is actually a very big company in East Africa, and it operates manufacturing plants in Kenya and also and exports some of their stuff to Uganda and Tanzania and the region actually. And they produce edible oils, hygiene products, etc. So you can actually, from them, you can actually see what kind of demand is there for machinery and also for how to quicken the production process. In terms of packaging and printing, there's growth in sustainable packaging materials, smart materials, and high quality labeling solutions. I won't go so much into that as the previous speaker has already spoken about the recycling part of all this. There's fast-moving consumer goods. There's increased production, of course, of packaged food, beverages, and personal care products. And companies such as Unilever are in the market. And Trigger Foods, you can look them up and see how they have streamlined food distribution across the region. In terms of infrastructure, when you look at the whole of East Africa, there's, of course, the standard gauge railway, which has helped in cargo movement between ports and industrial hubs. The Lapset Corridor project is a project connecting Kenya, Ethiopia, South Sudan for efficient cross-border trade. Mombasa, which is a port in Kenya, and Dar es Salaam, which is a port in Tanzania, are continuing being expanded to increase cargo handling and capacity for exports and imports, which actually now has really helped in reducing delays at the ports. And then, of course, there's been highway and border enhancements across the region. Another sector, because I know I've focused a lot in the terms of manufacturing sector, is also the security and cybersecurity sector. So the rising need for cybersecurity, homeland security, smart surveillance, all this is driving investment in the security sector. And I'd actually challenge you to look up a company, if you're not very familiar with them, called Safaricom. You'll be able to see the different ways that they've been able to enter the cybersecurity sector in Kenya and how they're keeping on evolving. And they're quite open to many partnerships which they've had with different companies. So I'd say I'd leave that to be able to for you to look up on it. Because now I'll talk about the sectors that I am very familiar with. So here are the key trade sectors and market opportunities. One is packaging. So when you look at packaging, it grows to about 5 to 7% annually. And the opportunities for Greek businesses could be sustainable packaging solutions, printing innovations, and smart packaging. When you look at processing, you can look at the growth rate is quite high. It's about 6 to 8% annually. And the trends are more demand for food safety technology, automation, and efficient solutions. So again, opportunities here would be food ingredients, beverage processing, and dairy technology. When you look at printing, there's a lot of digital printing on the rise. Of course, with Kenya taking part of the market share. And this is and potential would be high-end printing technology, 3D printing, eco-friendly solutions. So all these would be places that you can be able to look at in terms of the business sector. When it comes to plastics and sustainability, there's of course a shift to more sustainable packaging. And this is potential places would be bioplastics, alternative materials, and also consulting. In terms of security, we have cybersecurity, AI-driven surveillance, access control, and private security regulation. So places that you can look at entering would be smart surveillance, cyber defense, and AI security solutions, amongst others. These are just a highlight of the sectors that can be there. So how can you engage in East Africa? There are many methods, but these are some of the others that can be used. So of course, there are trade associations. So if you're in manufacturing, there's Kenya Association of Manufacturing, there's the Kenya Private Sector Alliance, there's the Kenya National Chamber of Commerce and Industry, and then there's a Kenya Invest Authority, as well as others. So Tanzania, there's a CTI, which is a Confederation of Tanzanian Industries. There's a Rwanda Development Board. And of course, when you're in security, there's a Kenya Cyber Security and Forensics Association. In terms of market entry strategies, I've put some soft, very easy ones to start with. Of course, that's finding local distributors and partners, attending trade shows, because that also gives you a very good overview of the market. Exploring government incentives and tax benefits before you actually enter into the sector, whichever country you look at in East Africa. And of course, leveraging digital platforms for B2B networking and lead generation, because at least this helps you to be able to have a better landing as you enter the market. Investment incentives in East Africa, I'll just mention a few. So Kenya, the SEZs, the previous speaker has spoken about them. Then Rwanda, there's a 15% preferential corporate tax rate and 7-year tax holiday for large projects. So you can see that's a very good deal. And Uganda has incentives such as capital allowances and tax exemptions for targeted sectors. Those are just a few of them. So in summary, because yes, my presentation has only been about East Africa. The region presents a strategic investment destination for businesses looking to tap into one of the fastest growing markets in the world. East Africa is quite a fast market. And just as an ending to the presentation and a conclusion, for those who've not been in East Africa, I just want to play a short video just to give you an overview of how the place looks like. The video has no sound, so if you hear no sound, do not worry about it. Okay. So that just shows us Kigali, for those who've not been there before. It's a bit of Kampala, Addis Ababa, which is in Ethiopia. I didn't put all the countries, but I just put some of it for just as an ending. And that's Dar es Salaam. And the last part shows Nairobi. So at least for those who've never been to East Africa, I thought that this would give you a bit of an idea of how the market looks like, okay, the region looks like, and you can just tell that it's a very beautiful and warm place for you to come. So hopefully welcome all to East Africa. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Angela, for the very detailed and thorough and to-the-point presentation. We really appreciate. Indeed, people that have never been to Africa, and more specifically East Africa that we're discussing today, sometimes they have a bit of a distorted idea of what that region looks like. And indeed, is a very well-developed region, especially East Africa. So thank you very much for the video. I'm pretty sure we're going to have some questions for you based on your broad experience in East Africa. So let's go to the next speaker, Mr. Matthias Prium, who is based in Tanzania, and I'm honored to be working with him lately. And he's going to discuss about unlocking business potential in Tanzania strategies for market entry, and high-value partnerships. Matthias, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. And I hope all is well visible.
Yes, it is.
Okay, so let me start by thanking the President of the Hellenic African Chamber of Commerce and Development, Mr. Vasilis Takas, and Ambassador Dimitris Karabalis, and Mr. John Kourkoutas for making this possible. Ladies and gentlemen, Kalispera, and welcome in Tanzania. Tanzania is a beautiful country, no doubt about it, and you must have heard about it. But we're here to talk business, and business is on the move in Tanzania. And we, with our company, VUCA Consulting, we facilitate business in this beautiful country, Tanzania. And how does it work to do business? What are good strategies for entry and for high value partnerships? First of all, know your own value. When we come to Tanzania and we do business here, what Tanzanians truly appreciate are European business standards. So demand the highest business standards in terms of reliability, accountability, and also communication as you reach out to local partners. They will truly appreciate that and they will respond to that. So Europe stands for quality. We have that edge in the market, and it is something that we can definitely use to our advantage. Know this, Tanzania is a country with the rule of law, and if you follow the law, you're always in the clear when you do business. Of course, as entrepreneurs, sometimes we feel like as we started our own business, perhaps in Europe, we need to do everything by ourselves. Well, here we are in a foreign country, so let's make sure we have good counselors around us. A good business consultant, you may reach out to VUCA Consulting if you want to, but think also of a good lawyer, accountants, auditors that can give you the ins and outs of what and what not to do. So this is a good way to get started. Now, what we do here in Tanzania, we make it a point to work with every European embassy, also with the EU delegation, whenever possible. We are also a member of the European Business Group here in Tanzania. And this gives us a good idea about what projects are going on in every European, for European companies, and where we can possibly also bring other European partners in. So what is always valuable, what we bring is strategic counseling, maybe for market entry, but also to follow up on leads or projects here in Tanzania. Of course, if you want to have partners that you want to work with, perhaps to sell your products here in Tanzania, due diligence is necessary. And then again, a company such as ours and also the company of John and many others, we do that service, and it is very valuable. But we also identify, oh, my apologies, we also identify projects that you can work in. Now, if we look at Tanzania, there's a population of 70 million. The land size of Tanzania is 7 times the size of Greece, if you look at it. The greatest asset of Tanzania, take it from me, it's the people. They're kind, they're hospitable, and they're just wonderful to deal with. And there is a young population too, very dynamic. 49.9% of the population right now is below the age of 18 years old. So there's 5 million tourists that are expected this year, but don't worry, that figure was already made last year. Now here, Greece has 35 million tourists a year. Now we have that 7 Greeks being 7 times bigger than Tanzania. So imagine the knowledge, the know-how that Greece can bring to a country like Tanzania in terms of tourism. And there's a great need also there. Like in Zanzibar, there's a need in the infrastructure, also of hotels. We can also look at agriculture. That accounts for 65% of jobs for the population in Tanzania. Well, coffee is one commodity that we all love, but there's also vanilla, avocado, cashews. So there's plenty of good things to be had and to be exported where trading comes in. There's a need for solar-powered irrigation systems, cold chain logistics, agro-processing industries, and so forth, and certainly export industry. You can see in the picture, that's Dar es Salaam. Mind you, it's not our capital. Dar es Salaam is the economic hub of Tanzania. The capital is Dodoma, and it's growing quickly. Let's talk about some opportunities for investing in Tanzania. Let's talk about mining. Well, mining, if you were to invest in mining in Tanzania, that's an investment in Greece as well. Let me explain. For example, we are working with a 3 billion fund manager in Belgium. And so they have been focusing on projects in Tanzania in the mining industry. And as a result, we are now looking at having a refinery for the chemical cluster in the port city of Antwerp for products from the mining industry of Tanzania. I can't say too much about it yet. It's still, as a consultant, I cannot share too much. But think of this. You could also support local metallurgical or chemical clusters in Greece. For example, Greece has a known steel industry. Well, iron ore is certainly available in Tanzania, but it cannot leave the country when the iron ore concentrate is below 60%. So that local value addition is done in Tanzania, but then the further beneficiation can be done in Greece and benefit Greek companies and also the workforce. Another one could be lithium. It's found in Tanzania, certainly. And again, that could also be taken into consideration for chemical processing in Greece. So this is something that can bring real value to your industries. But there's more. Look at a mine, how it is set up, and we look at the principle of from pit to port. Now, the pit is the mining pit, but so much is going on in the mining industry. It is a city by itself where you have an energy sector, where we need renewable energy, water treatment. We need HR training, ISO certifications, a lot of logistics, lubricants, chemicals, maintenance, construction, engineering. There is room for a lot of know-how from Greek companies to come into the mining industry as a result. What about the solar energy space? Well, it's beneficial, again, for all. PPAs, or power purchase agreements, are long-term contracts that are set up between a producer and an off-taker, which is usually the government. Now, these PPA agreements can last up to 25 years, and Tanzania has a lot of sun. Greece has a lot of experience with the solar space, and the know-how is there. And so that know-how can be transferred here, and companies can come into that space. Also, to mention, Zanzibar has a lot of needs in the solar energy space. We spoke already about EU investment priorities. Where can you come in as a Greek company? Perhaps there are projects that are going on right now in Tanzania that fall under the Global Gateway. The Global Gateway looks at projects for digital, for example, promoting an open and secure internet. But there are many other digital projects. There's climate and energy, transport, health, think of the pharma industry, education and research. So if we have projects, perhaps we can add added European Greek content there So reach out and let's see if there's a possibility for you to come in on projects that are currently being supported by the Global Gateway. And certainly, you will find Tanzania is not just a beautiful country, it is for you a country where you can really have benefits in terms of business. So, karibu Tanzania.
Thank you very much, Matthias. What you've described was quite insightful and definitely to the point, because Greek companies are interested in not only how to invest, but also how to export products and services, and of course, be involved in specific projects. And definitely through the European Union, it's always the best route. And since Matthias, to be honest, reminds me of myself, he's a European for many years in Africa. I really like his approach, and I really thank him for what he has shared. So going to the next speaker, Mr. Michael Georgiou, who is a Cypriot but based in Kenya for quite many years now. And I have the pleasure and joy of working with him in several projects throughout the years. So I can guarantee about his knowledge and his professionalism. He's going to talk about innovations in the electrical engineering, automation, and construction, mostly in Kenya, but also in other countries of East Africa that he has done projects. Michael, the floor is yours. Michael, can you hear us? Yes, we can hear you now.
Hello, everyone. Hi, George. Thank you for the opportunity to introduce our life here in Kenya and East Africa. I am here the last 10 years, and I am working in the section of the construction and specialized things, as George he say, on the anything on the electrical, MEP, and finishes. We are in the hospitality and the hotel industry and built-in finishes. For my last 10 years in Africa, I believe that is plenty opportunity for investment and especially for companies when they interested to come in for or to give the knowledge and to set up our experience and the knowledge all of those years in Europe. The market is growing up very quickly. Is a lot of demand for the whole industry, and is plenty opportunity to setting up something here in Kenya. In our field on the automations, security systems, and finishes, we have a good technician in the ground, but we don't have those expertise when they can teach these people and to increase the knowledge and the necessary demand when it's in the in the ground. A lot of buildings is they asking for technology things, and a lot of companies, as you hearing before with other speaker before, is coming in with a lot of asking for the quality and the expertise on their finishes. So we need to we try to find out how we can import this knowledge from Greece, for Europe, and this technology to come in here to setting up in the country.
Thank you very much, Michael. I have a couple of questions, but I will keep them for the Q&A session, specifically for your sector. But thank you for your insights. Now let's go to the next and final speaker, Mr. Ramba Method, who's going to talk about Rwanda. And actually, Rwanda is a country that I've done the least business in East Africa personally, but definitely is a country that is a modern country, has been modernized throughout the last 10 years. There are so many opportunities. It's a very organized country, and definitely we need to have our eyes opened for Rwanda, a small country but with lots of opportunities. So we're going to hear about real estate mostly, digital transformation, and smart investments. Mr. Ramba, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, John. And thank you. I'm glad to have this opportunity to present Rwanda on Hellenic Africa. Sorry for how I call it, but I'm glad. But I had the presentation. The presentation was to say about East Africa, but the majority of the presenter have already spoken enough about East Africa. I will be staying about Rwanda, and Rwanda has, and even Africa has a lot of opportunity. I saw a lot of opportunity: real estate, digitalization, and trust. As you know, and all said, we said that Africa is the next, is where it's happening next, and but how it will happen there. Why I saw the opportunity is in the data. For example, to show you, Rwanda is already well developed in terms of land. The land in Rwanda are digitalized. I don't know if you are aware of that. Like 99% of the land in Rwanda are digitalized. But beyond that, today there is no a formal way where you can invest on that land. Where so Greece can participate, helping us to do this new technology, tokenization, blockchain. I saw a big opportunity in collaboration on how also my colleague who said it, that we have the people, but we don't have all the knowledge. And there's an opportunity in terms of teaching, investing, for example, when I say real estate, it comes tourism, because I saw Greece is very good in tourism. But again, East Africa has a lot of opportunity in tourism, We have a very, very good weather, very good land, and some country has, for example, Rwanda has its uniqueness. We have gorilla, and the government of Rwanda has made a lot of effort to eliminate all the bureaucracy. For example, when it comes to open a business in Kigali, you need only 6 hours. One of the colleagues has mentioned RDB. RDB is very efficient. You can open up a business within 6 hours. There is a lot of incentivization to help investors to establish in Rwanda. Rwanda is very safe. The government of Rwanda try to organize is safe, and but we still lacking of like other country Africa. We still lacking of we have a challenge on a fragmented market, disorganized, and is where I saw this opportunity if the expertise of people from Greece, because they have a lot of experience already in tourism, in advanced agriculture, and other stuff. And me particularly, I saw the solution in AI, blockchain and tokenization, because why I believe that it's, for example, when you saw Kenya, they have done something very well, what they call M-Pesa, which we call Momo in Rwanda. And why, again, I'm advocating for blockchain, tokenization, and AI, I saw if we find an innovative way to incentivize people to build our own trust, because yes, we all mention about opportunity and so on, but we didn't really mention that there is Africa has the opportunity, but has also the risk. And I saw this technology can help any investor from anywhere to tap in African market. I would be saying Rwanda because it's what I know more. And as my colleague has mentioned, the country where they are. Again, because we already has the land digitalized, and with the taking this advantage of the tokenization on blockchain, the land and the trusts, we can revolutionize how business is done in Africa. And I really called our colleague from Greece to stay in touch and come explore Rwanda. And thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ramba. So now that we have concluded with the presentations, if you ask me, the most important and significant part of such webinars are the Q&A sessions. And I welcome now all to switch on their cameras and ask whichever of the presenters, of the speakers, if they have any kind of question about investments, about specific countries, specific sectors that they might believe that they're going to get the most relevant answer. So I urge all of you, we're not that many, so feel free without raising hands. Just switch on your camera and your mic. Feel free, because I haven't seen any questions in the chat box. You shouldn't be afraid. Anyone? especially the Greek companies that are part of the East African committee that we have, the work group. I'm pretty sure now is the right time to ask questions that maybe I'm not able to answer when we do the work groups. Anyone? No one? I have a couple of questions if you want to take your time and prepare yourselves. So let me start. My question is going to be addressed to Angela because she has the I would say the most complete knowledge about East Africa out of the group of speakers who are mostly specialized in specific countries. So since together, since today we are talking about Greek companies and how to do business in East Africa, what's the most important thing is to realize the opportunities, both for investments, of course, as you mentioned, but also for exports of products and services. All of you, or at least most of you speakers, mention about some hot sectors right now, but I would like to elaborate further and ask for some specific sectors that I know some of our members are dealing with. So Angela, if you have any insights concerning agrochemicals, construction, both for materials and for involving companies and projects, and also services, not only in Kenya, but generally in East Africa, what would be the best opportunities right now, and what would be the way to approach them for the Greek companies?
And John, thank you so much for the question. So when it comes to things like real estate, so I'll start with the first one, was real estate or construction. Yeah, actually construction. So construction definitely has always been a booming sector in East Africa. One is because you're still growing. We also, like when it comes even from construction from living, from houses, residential homes to businesses, construction has always been there. In terms of Kenya, we have the affordable housing project going on. Ethiopia, in fact, recently we're just saying with one of the partners that we work with in Ethiopia, that trade shows in Ethiopia are like, when you look at their construction show, it's one of the best performing shows in the sector in Ethiopia, that when it comes to B2B exhibition. So that just shows you the way that there's hunger for people to be able to import things for their construction industry, materials. And the good thing is that there's a lot of, when I look at East Africans, there's experimentation. You get, so people are not really stuck on one market. They experiment. So when they see a solution, they feel like it's going to be able to work for them. Then they take it in and they're able to now use it and make it part of who they are and what they're doing. In terms of another sector that, of course, is growing and I feel like is very critical for any economy is manufacturing. So anything that is in the ecosystem of manufacturing does really well. Because again, as you said, we have a growing population. Of course, we need a lot of the packaged goods. Okay, you can just call them together FMCG goods, and all this comes from manufacturing. When it looks, and this, when it comes to exports, okay, we import a lot. Honestly, like especially like I'll talk from Kenya. Kenya's perspective is that we import a lot, especially when it comes to machinery, because we don't make our own in Kenya. We actually import that. We import some of the raw materials, and I can provide more statistics on this, on what we actually import. But what I'd say is the best way to come into any of these countries and to get the real statistics is to also look at so each of the countries have an investment board. So Rwanda has Rwanda Development Board, Kenya has Kenya Invest. So number one, this will tell you, they'll give you an overview on what the market is like. Then if you're in a particular sector, I would say go to the industry association. So the industry association, so first you've gone to the government, so the government has given you the overall general thing where the market is going to. But the industry association will give you now the nitty-gritties, what the government is not saying and what's the situation on the ground, or people who are actually there you can be able to partner with, who will tell you the challenges that they're facing and the growth opportunities. So I'd say go to the industry associations. Then after that, before you invest, I'd say go, even though you don't exhibit, at least visit a trade exhibition, carry out your own market research, because from a trade exhibition, you're able to know, is this sector really growing? What are the other players in the market saying about it? Who would be your future competitors? And who do your clients look like? Who are your future clients in this market looking like? Yeah, so I hope I've answered part of your question, if not all of it.
Thank you very much, Angela. Now I see some specifics that Mrs. Spiridaki wants to answer. Mrs. Spiridaki deals with agrochemicals and fertilizers. So she's asking if any one of the speakers can quantify numbers concerning agriculture, meaning main crops, imports, exports, agricultural products in numbers, and line of trade. So any of the speakers, I don't know, maybe Matthias, since Tanzania is a primarily agricultural country.
So concerning agriculture, main crops, imports, export, agricultural products in numbers, and line of trade. I must apologize, I do not know all numbers by heart. That is when it comes to the agricultural sector. But as mentioned, 65% of the country currently works in the agricultural sector. It is a huge sector, and there is a lot of potential there for investment. Think of the avocado production, for example, or cashew and other important export crops. So we could quickly look it up, of course, but I do not know the numbers by heart.
Thank you very much. Indeed, in order to have numbers, it's quite tricky just on the fly. But
Sorry.
yes, Evie, please.
Sorry to interrupt. Of course, my question was in general and not taking notes for numbers, because, in general, agriculture may be at the 65% of, the general outcome of agricultural product in a country, but this may not be, for example, for Greece, you will all understand that, for example, here in Greece, the main crop is olives and greenhouses products deriving from, such as tomato, etc., etc. But the main crops are, involve the 50% of the most of the agricultural products, which gives us an estimate of general products being used. That's why, therefore, my question. Okay, that's that was it.
Thank you, Evie. Indeed, the agricultural sector in Africa is quite vast, and I addressed the question to Matthias since, as I mentioned, Tanzania has this specific sector very well developed. But definitely we can come back with more on that. Now, Mr. Costa Konstantakopoulos has a question concerning fintech and generally banking. And he wants to address it to Mr. Ramba. And since we already mentioned Momo and Safaricom, I think this question is going to be quite important. Costa?
Thank you so much, John. First of all, I enjoy a lot all the presentations. Indeed, very, very interesting and insightful. I would like to greet all of you. I'm a business partner of John from MRX Consulting. And the last 20 years, I live and we work with John together here in Zambia and the Sub-Saharan Africa. So greetings from Zambia. And yes, I would like to find out a little bit more about the fintech sector. We know that the last years, not only in Zambia, in several countries, there is a boom, an explosion of mobile money services, and a lot of digitalization, especially on the banking sector and whatever has to do with financial transactions or financial services, but on, let's say, a digital way. I would like just your thoughts of or any information that you would possibly give us for the fintech sector. Thank you so much.
Ramba, if you want to take this one.
Okay, I'm gonna take this one. Okay, the fintech is vague, and what I saw as, for example, recently there have been an event in Kigali, I think last month, about fintech. There is a lot of going on. There was many companies from Singapore and Luxembourg and the other part of the world. There was here. But what I would like to add, I saw the fintech to be the democratization or the revolution for Africa, since or many countries start to digitalize their currency. For example, the National Bank of Rwanda, they're considering CBDC next year, and I saw an opportunity in fintech, but it will be a fintech design with the solution to the African problem. I'm a big advocate because in Africa we have what I would be calling unliquid asset, which is land. Majority of the country in Africa, they're on agriculture, but when you look how their productivity is not good at all. And the product that I saw that we can revolutionize, the fintech that I can so revolutionize Africa, it will be a fintech that understand the agriculture, that understand how the investment is working on an international level, that will incentivize the professionalism on agriculture. Is where I saw in fintech is where I saw the future in Africa. I don't see it the one existing now, but the one designed with the African problem. What I call the African problem, we have land, we have many people, but we are so fragmented, disorganized. But now, if the fintech will take the advantage of AI, organize data, and from the data and create a value from the unliquid asset, it will be a changing a game changing in the continent. I don't know if I respond well to the question, but is where I saw the revolution for Africa, because the technology now has evolved, and it can give the one who will take and understand our main challenge. It will make a big difference. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ramba.
John, if you're open to it, can I add to that?
Of course,
You're
of
open to
course.
it?
And then after you, it's Matthias, I think, that he wants to contribute. Feel free,
Yes.
Angela, yes.
Okay. So recently, as just to contribute with, I attended there's an event called Africa Tech Summit. I'd ask you to be able to look at them. So the fintech side is actually quite evolved in East Africa. And you can look at the demand because the Africa Tech Summit was held in Kenya, but we had people from the even Greater East African region coming in. And we also had different players from even Finland coming in just to be able to see, to give out their payments, their fintech solutions, their payment solutions. And it's actually a very vibrant community. I'd tell you that it's something to be able to get in touch with. It's a very vibrant community as people are looking for solutions, as he said, for the African market. The market is vast because, again, as much as we have the mobile payments, it's not that is doing very well in Kenya, but also they need integrations, as they're going to other markets, as people are sending money, let's say abroad, etc. So it means that they also need integrations and they need more partners. But then you look at places like Ethiopia, it hasn't picked up that well, so it means that they also need other fintech solutions. So I'd say it's quite a market that you should be able to consider entering into. And I'd tell you to probably follow the Africa Tech Summit and see if you can be able to connect with some of the players who are there. They can be able to give you more insights on what the market has been like for them. Okay.
Matthias?
So one of the recent developments here, at least in Tanzania, but I'm sure also in other African countries, is of course USAID stopping its support of a number of fintech projects. In Tanzania, we also had the Agri-Fintech project, so that was halted. There's also the Digital Invest program in Africa. So I'm working with partnering here with a local investment holding, and so now we're seeing that some projects are urgently looking for financing and scrambling, let's say, for financing to keep moving as they were being supported by them. So there may be opportunities there for investors to come in and support these fintechs.
Thank you, Matthias. Thank you.
Hi, John.
Yes, Michael.
Yes. I believe that investment for European funds, because as we know, the difference between the funding, the projects for locally money is much more costly. Okay. So let's say if you want to borrow money for the bank, the cost is either they can go either 20% of interest. So investments for abroad, as we know, also the rate of the bank in Europe to saving your money is better. You bring your money to investing here in a project, and the repayment back of your investment is much more profitable than you have your money in the bank in Europe.
Quite true, Michael. I totally agree. We have a question, I believe, by Mr. President, and I would like to address it to all speakers, and feel free to answer. If a Greek exporter in food products, for example, olives, or in building materials, aluminum profiles, Michael, and wants to export to the East African countries, for example, in Kenya, what would be the steps the company must follow? I don't know who would like to take it. Maybe Michael, especially for the construction and the aluminum profiles.
Already we have several Greek companies when they started and they was export materials here, and slowly they turning this. Then they like one of our company they receive it. We receive it the goods from Solar, let's say, from Greece. It's a manufacturer company in Greece. They're selling the product here. So the step like olive here, you mean the trees or the just olive?
I'm pretty sure they're talking about the finished products.
Yes, this is actually the kind of costing done because like the oil here, the olive oil in the table here is the price is very high. Okay, and actually much more higher than what we have it in Greece supermarket or whatever, because especially olive oil to come in here is very expensive in the entrance point. Now, if you bring it and just the products, and then you set up your a factory here to produce the things, they're gonna come in much cheaper because they're gonna come in as a production line to the local production line. So if you bring the raw materials here and you process, you make the process in a local setup, the costs are gonna be much cheaper. So I believe if a knowledge is coming and the raw materials is coming here for process, okay, they're gonna be, and to setting up the industry here, the costs are gonna be much cheaper, because especially in Kenya we have the problem in the entrance point when it's a lot of bureaucracies and a lot of stories in the entrance point.
Thank you, Michael.
I think John, yeah.
Yes, actually, I was going to address the same question to you, Mr. Engeno. Yes.
Yes. So sorry to cut you short, but I think what the president needs to clarify, because you see, importing materials to the country. I'd give an example of Kenya because that's what I've really dealt in. I've dealt in wine from Greece. So what really happens is, one, you need to register with the necessary authorities, right? So like the Kenya Bureau of Standards, right? So you need to have your product confirmed in Greece. If it is aluminium in this case, I assume they'll send the necessary checkers present in Greece. And based of my knowledge, I know we have entities like SGS that can check the quality. So they are used by the Revenue Authority and the Kenya Bureau of Standards to check on the quality of the product in whatever country they are importing the product from. Then once the product is confirmed as fit for either consumption, so in this case olive, or fit for the Kenyan market, in this case the aluminium, they would then give you the necessary certification to have the product imported. So in that case, Mr. President, the decision you should make then from that level is, are you importing the product as an individual and setting up separately in the country, or are you looking for a partner in Kenya to rather be the importer of this specific product? So in that case, if it is you to take up the full responsibility, then automatically you must set up the business either as a branch or as a subsidiary. But in this case, the best approach would be a subsidiary for purposes of tax. A branch also attracts different tax if you look at it from that perspective. You would also need to consider the taxes that it involves whenever you either set up the business fully in the country or you identify a distributor in the country. So those are the key decisions you'd make. But yes, the process is you must register the product with the necessary authorities, which is KEBS and then Kenya Revenue Authority. And of course, you'd be given the go-ahead to have the product imported.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Emmanuel. And just to contribute to this discussion, 3 points that I would like to stress out. Number one, indeed, most of products that are imported in Kenya, they have to go through SGS inspection before loading. This has happened with many companies that we've helped throughout the years, in most cases. Number two, I will agree with Michael that the added value when you have a local production or a local added value in any way, it's always a better process. It helps you do other things better, save time, save money, and be a stronger player in the market. And as far as the steps, pretty much they were covered, but you need first to identify which way you're going to do it, with a local production or semi-production or bottling or packaging, or just straight out exports. I believe we have a question by Costa who wants to address it to Angela.
Yes, I would like to ask Angela, and if any other of the speakers would like to add, they are welcome to do. I would like to ask how they feel about USAID pulling out from Africa. I can say the major operations, funding programs, etc., etc. I'm asking that because I've seen yesterday evening, I've seen a quite interesting interview with Dr. Arikana Chikombori from Zimbabwe, that she was the former permanent representative of the African Union to the United States, stating that it's a blessing that they finally pulling out and they are leaving. So listening Matthias, actually already missing them, I would like to start with Angela and tell us what's the first impressions and how your country see this development with recent President Trump. Thank you.
Okay. I'd say that this would have a bit of course, subjective view. It can be completely objective. But our former president was one of the first people to come out and say that he found it as a blessing in disguise. But I'd say on ground, what you're finding is, as I think Emmanuel mentioned, so right now UN is actually shifting some of the offices to Kenya, which means that you're getting more people in. So that has proven to be a positive, because when you look at the impact of having the UN in Kenya, it creates a whole microeconomy that is very, provides a lot of, can I say, income to different sectors, not only from housing, from real estate to food to everything. So it creates a whole microeconomy. So as much, so that a negative happened, but then this ended up being a positive for Kenya on that end. At the same time, of course, there are a lot of NGOs that have been affected, and a lot of aid work that was being done that has been put to a stop. And that now on that side becomes a bit of a sad state of affairs, because of course there were people who were like HIV vaccines who were waiting for them. I mean, not vaccines, but medication. The people who are on USAID-funded HIV medication who cannot be able to access it anymore. So when it comes to now that sector, until we are able to find a solution, then it becomes very sad, because these are lives that are being affected, and they've been affected very abruptly without like a slow handover process. Yeah, and then I'll let the rest people to talk as well.
Okay.
Who would like to
Thank you so
contribute?
much.
Emmanuel or Ramba?
To add to Angela's point, you need to realize that USAID has created, or rather had created, a sense of dependency from most of the African, I'd call it NGOs, right? So in this case, you'd realize that one, there is the loss of employment. So automatically that would create an economic shift in terms of employment capacity. You would also need to look at it from the perspective of what exactly was USAID doing, right, in the African market. And you'd find that most of the projects that USAID was doing directly was rather supporting, I'd call it the low-income population, which makes up close to 60% of the African economy. So in this case, there would be a shift in terms of huge unemployment. And in that case, it might create some kind of economic imbalance in terms of it would lead to now the people living below the dollar who are dependent on USAID, because you'd find most organizations that were funded by USAID were literally targeting the below dollar families in the economy. So in that case, you'd get a lot of course, one thing that we'd have to mention is you'd get a sense of
Mr. Emmanuel,
yes.
if you allow me, let's concentrate in the opportunities that this situation brings, more especially for European companies and Greek companies, just to stay, aligned with today's topic, because it's quite interesting, but let's not, make it very vague. So if you can help us with some insights on opportunities created based on this shift.
Correct. So I was actually heading to the main point that I wanted to raise around the opportunities that would be created. So you'd realize that there'd be a huge shift towards cheap labor, because remember, the families that live under the dollar in this case would then need to look for other jobs to survive in, right? These are people who are used to handouts. But in this case, with the shift of the USAID leaving the market, you tend to find that our economy would automatically shift into cheap labor. So if anyone sets up within the African market, you would then lead to having cheap labor that you can use to do any value addition. So for example, the question that was asked about the olives, if you would want to do any value addition in the country, you would get cheap labor in the long run. So that's the main shift that I think we would get as a country.
Thank you very much. Just we have time for a couple of questions if anybody wants to contribute. If not, I kept something that Matthias said during his presentation concerning metals and more specifically steel. Since today we have a couple of representatives from the biggest metal manufacturer in Greece, a multi-billion euro company, to be honest. If Matthias, please, you can elaborate further in this specific topic.
Yeah, so Tanzania offers iron ore in great quantities that can be extracted here. There can be local value addition here, and then again be exported to Europe. The local value addition can even be done in free economic zones, or free industrial zones rather, and then exported to Tanzania. For example, right now we are into a project where for a major Indian iron ore company, or steel producer, we identified a mine that could produce 1 million tons of iron ore per year. So these are possibilities that we have here, which can create great value.
Thank you very much. Anyone? Any questions? Just to say that there are many companies, Greek companies, that have already started exporting and doing business in East Africa. And based on the question by Mr. President about the aluminum profiles, there are two companies that come in mind, Greek companies, Europa, that I've worked with them in the past, and also Alumil, that have done business. They do business, and also one of them has also set up premises and manufacturing in two countries of East Africa. And also in the renewable energy, there are many companies in the solar water heaters, solar geysers, as we call them in Southern Africa, that have been exporting to East Africa for more than 15 years. I don't want to advertise and promote any of them, but there are some of the biggest in Greece. So if there's no other question, just allow me for a final one. And
Can I?
yes,
Sorry, Joe.
Michael. Yes.
Can I add in something on the relation between to setting up something, especially on raw materials, and then to export from here to Europe, or opposite?
Of course.
It was a sign up memorandum of understanding and business when they sign up the Kenya with the Europe. What they sign up? They sign up that anything manufactured with the during on the country, okay, and this is okay, is not immediately starting. Is a plan when is gonna take it around 5 to 6 years to happening. Okay, anything they gonna starting to do in a commercial, so they can save in on the taxes. So companies because we have several, as you say, on the recycle, on the raw materials when like lithium is here. Okay, so companies is a challenge actually for European companies and especially for Greece. They can come to setting up with the knowledge what they have it, to setting up their factories, because as we say also before, the labor is cheap here, okay, to produce here, and then except of the opportunity to supply on the local market, okay, they can reselling back in Europe, okay, then they import the raw materials to Europe to manufacture in Europe, and then they selling back again into Africa, because we are talking about a huge market here and a huge demand, what is needed to be happening here. But we don't have this setting up of the industrial, of the manufacturer here. So I believe it's plenty opportunity, and it's good, a big organization, especially from Greece, to see the opportunity here than to transfer the knowledge and to setting up a manufacturer here, okay, when they can use this for the local market, and in the future, when this commercial is going on, they can start to selling back in Europe with the low cost.
Thank you, Michael. Anyone wants to contribute on this discussion? We have Matthias, yes.
Yes, local value addition is a big one. It's a big one for European funding as well. For the Global Gateway as well, we are looking at local job creation, and that is very important. Something that you can always think of as an industry is working together with banks, and then those banks could identify maybe a person, let's say in Tanzania, in Zambia, in Kenya, who would now coordinate with local banks to set up frameworks for green bonds. So whereby money that will be invested into those green bonds and the framework that has been created will suit you and suit your investment. It's a protection and it's a good way forward. So we are seeing this happening now for I've been approached myself by an investment funds and talking to banks about green bonds, and I believe this is a very safe way to work, and it's very beneficial and to both parties. So this is where we are not US8. We are really doing business, but this works both ways, and it mitigates risks.
Thank you, Matthias. If there is no other question, because we have maybe time for one last question, maybe a sector that we haven't touched at all by one of the members. Anyone? So if there's no other question, on behalf of the Chamber and the board of the Chamber, I would like to thank all of you for the very interesting discussion and fruitful. We all learned a lot, both us that we reside and do business in Africa, as well as the companies that are eager, wanting to start seizing opportunities in Africa. We really appreciate, and you're going to receive all the material to your mailboxes, both the presentations. And if you have any other questions at a later stage, feel free to send them to the chamber, and definitely they're going to be addressed to the right person. And we're going to get back to you. Thank you all. Have a pleasant evening, and until next time, keep well, all of you. Goodbye.
Thank you very much.
Bye. Thank you for the
Thank
very
you.
organization.
Thank you very much.
Bye.
Bye, and thank you very much for the whole
everyone.
presentation. Have a nice day. Bye.
Bye.
Have a good evening. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.